The pre-fire?
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Where do you live at, Kerry?
Atlanta.
Atlanta, okay.
Yeah. Bourbon here sucks, doesn't it, Kenny?
Bourbon in Louisville sucks. Bet you bourbon in Atlanta is a lot easier.
Yeah, it is.
I just put you all the link to the chat when people actually start joining here.
Yes.
The 2 people?
All 7 of them?
We got 2 viewers right now. We just started broadcasting like 3 seconds ago, right?
Now
I'm down to 1. Somebody said
tweet this out. Let me tweet out this link so we can get like 3 more people.
Yeah. No. I'm gonna do the same.
What are you doing?
Woo. I'm tweeting out the link so people can join.
It's just Pursuit, Bourbonr, and Sip, right?
Yes.
I think so. Yep.
Yeah, Breaking Bourbon's not joining us.
All right, there we go. Oh, I sent a link for the chat. Does that make a difference?
Everybody's gonna be joining us.
Yeah, they'll be just looking at the window.
Hang on, let me
just delete the tweet and try again.
Yeah, paste in there what it actually is.
Here, I'll put it in our
and I'll do a short link of it.
There you go. I just put it in the thing.
It's this one at 9. I see the one at 9:48.
I literally just posted another one at 9:50.
Where? It doesn't say it in there.
Oh, sorry. In our chat. I'm sorry. I was doing it in the Twitter. There you go. There's the second one. Here, I'll get a little space here.
Okay. This is gonna be weird if it like links up and I see my voice on there. It's gonna be weird. Let's do this.
All right. We'll start with a little lot B.
Oh, lot B.
Mm-hmm.
What do we call this again? Are we the Bourbon Roundtable?
Bourbon Community Roundtable. So we got 5 viewers.
Why is it a round table? There's no table. It's just
there's no table. It's a metaphor.
And it's not round.
It's not, but it's a metaphor.
There you go.
I don't know. It was the best thing I can take off the top of my head. You know,
doing the best you can.
With what I got.
Yeah.
See if I can fit this link in, or if it. I got 2 characters left. Awesome. Come listen to my sexy voice on this month's Bourbon Roundtable live now.
No, it's hot.
Yeah, it's pretty hot.
I'm hoping to get my first California Gold right now.
Ladies, get in for free. All right, there we go. All right, where's Blake? Is he still at Longhorn?
Is that where he went?
That's funny.
Wouldn't try to do it up fancy there in Florida and go to Red Lobster or something?
Outback.
Yeah, Outback. That's right.
That's really
Ruby Tuesdays.
Lot B. Did you try Lot B this year? Or we're gonna pause and.
No, I got a complex, right? Like I don't like. So I've got this one. This is a 2014, I think.
Yeah. Hold on 1 sec. I'll be right back. 10 seconds.
So I think it's like a 2014. Like I don't open another one until I finish this.
Okay.
So I don't.
So
I'm not gonna try a 3-year vertical of Lot B because that doesn't make any sense to me. So
yeah, I've heard every one of the Pappies this year is bad.
Fantastic. Can't
Heard a lot of criticism, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All those rumors that are flying around, like I just read them like an hour ago. Pappy 15 cork taint or whatever.
Really?
Literally just saw it like an hour ago. It's just all hearsay and rumors right now.
Well, I know the 23 is nothing exciting at all. I've had that.
I thought it was better than the 20 this year, but
yeah, the 20 is poo-poo.
That's what I heard. It was really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got a bottle. I wish I hadn't opened it.
I got a bottle. I'm glad I didn't open it.
Sell.
Sell. Says 18.
Now's when you talk it up, though.
Oh, it's great.
Oh, yeah, it's awesome. You
It's
still have
best ever. It's
oh
best
my God,
ever.
it's the greatest thing ever.
yeah. I still want more of it. I mean, don't get me wrong.
I'm done, dude. That's it. I'm done.
You're a fucking liar.
I'm done. Done.
This says the guy till next May or next October. We'll see that.
Oh no, I just meant for the year.
Oh, okay.
I just meant for December. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I did see. So when you went to Total Wine, you got a 23 and a 10. Now
Yeah.
I also saw somebody, since you could only get like one Pappy and one of the regulars, somebody got a 23 and a rye. Did they have any ryes there?
So if the store had rye, you could pick from the rye, but they did not have it. The store that I was at.
That's crazy.
So,
It's a hell of a good score right there. If you can get there early
That's
enough.
corporate not realizing that the rye is just as hard to get as a Pappy 15.
Oh yeah.
So actually, rarer.
So we actually just got our first Total Wine here, but the way that Kentucky works, they're actually, you can't have any clubs, or the amount of money you spend doesn't get you a bottle, like a point system or anything like that. That's against the rules here in Kentucky. So how does the Total Wine work everywhere else? Like, because everybody said like, oh, the email's out, but like it goes out across the nation, and everybody just like calls ass to get to the store.
It goes to every Grand Reserve, and it was different. The Pappy was a first come, first serve. Email at 1:30 p.m. in the afternoon. Come to the store. This is your preferred store because you selected it in the system. You could select one Pappy and one non-Pappy. The antique collection email was, you may reserve a bottle online, and they had to resend it a couple times to get it to work. But so they do it as kind of like a coupon, as opposed to, like you can reserve online. It's kind of like, here's your shot at it, kind of thing.
Here's your voucher.
Yeah, here's your voucher, but it is first come, first serve. So of course, like when I
you
knew
have to
about
print it out and like show it to them, or you just show up and
you have to. They scan the barcode.
Okay, gotcha.
So you get a specific barcode for you. And I got to the store, and they were already 4 guys who had been there all day.
They just kind of got tipped off about it.
It's coming. I knew it was coming, but I waited till I actually went to work a little bit. Sat there and checked my email, just kept refreshing. And I kind of knew about when it was coming, so I went over to the store, and I was 5th in line. And then I'm telling you, after I purchased, so the email came out while I was at the store. As I'm checking out, the 5th person, there is a trove of people just marching into that store. I mean, probably 8 or 9 guys coming in,
right,
lining up. So, and he said that they were sold out an hour and a half later of all Pappy, and they were letting people at the end choose 2 Rip 10s. Like they went through everything. So next year, because everyone's keeping their status from last year and this year to the end of next year, it's going to be a bloodbath to do it at Total Wine. I got lucky 2 years in a row because I got in early, but next year will be crazy.
What's a Grand Reserve member like? What do you have to spend? How much? Like, is it like 2,500 or like?
2,500. Yeah.
Okay.
Which, if you think about it, like I bought.
That's not bad.
I bought one of those old fits. It was like 350 right there. A couple allocated bottles, and you're already at over $1,000.
Yeah.
Really not that bad at all.
Easy.
Convince the wife to throw a party, buy a bunch of wine.
Yeah. I was gonna say, hell, I spend that in wine for my wife.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not too bad. I mean, I think next year, people are starting to troll, and now we got 11 viewers. But I think next year for Total Wine, like, you just got to figure out what day the email is going to hit. And Blake's joining. What days the email is going to hit, and then you just kind of just hang out there in the parking lot.
Yes.
I mean, shit, that's what I do when we go and camp out. I just bring the MiFi, the laptop, and go work in the parking lot. So
right, that's what it's going to be. Blake, how was Outback, man? Did you get the Funyun onion?
Ooh,
Bloomin' onion.
Bloomin' onion. Yeah.
Bloomin' onion. Yeah, get it right.
He's frozen.
Where'd that
I
come
don't
from?
think he. I don't think he knows what's going on.
He's frozen.
Can y'all hear me?
You're breaking in and out, man.
Hold on.
Drop and come back on.
Outback's Wi-Fi is not working well. Have you been to Total Wine, Kenny, here?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually really nice. From what I
awesome.
hear, it's not going to be their first one, and that's in town. And I know that's kind of pissing off Liquor Barn and a lot of other retailers around here, because they have like the cheapest prices around. Like, I think right now their Booker's is like $46. Like, it's almost cheaper than Costco.
Oh, for wine, it's insane. Like, Mayomi is normally like, it's a wine my wife loves, is like $18, $19 there. It's like $13. It's
Yeah,
insane.
I mean, Total Wine really is. It's awesome. I mean, it's like, first of all, the past 2 years, they have rewarded loyal customers like a big store should, right? You keep track of points with a point system. You reward the loyal customers who are hitting Grand Reserve. Like, they did it right for 2 years. Their prices are awesome. They've always got, they always get rare beers before anybody else. They put them out front for everybody. You don't have to, know somebody. You just need to spend money at the store, and they reward you. And so their system is great. It's just there's a lot more competition now, especially for you guys over there.
Yeah.
Well, they got Liquor Barn's prices to come down immediately. I mean, they came in the very next Sunday in the paper. Liquor Barn had an ad with new low prices. Is how they advertised it.
Mm-hmm.
Just try to keep up.
Yeah, and Party Mart's sending me mailers every day about low pricing now ever since Total Wine.
Well, that's what was it? So, we've got our own local Facebook group or whatever, and every single time Liquor Barn has something, they set out everything on their front counter. Like this week, it was like Boss Hog from Whistle Pig and some other Evan Williams 12 years and just some other, shelf turds that people go crazy over, just like regular Weller. And somebody even said in the comments, they said, make sure you price match it to Total Wine because they're like $3 more there than a Total Wine. So it's it's kind of crazy how cheap they are.
Right to the bottom.
Which, by the way, not to plug anything, but I'm having the Floor 5 experimental.
I never got around to trying those. The
that's really good. It's like what Weller 12 should be.
Yeah.
Really good.
Blake, how
you doing, big boy?
Yeah, Blake, how was Ruby Tuesdays?
So, did I miss the joke? What?
Well, they said you were out to dinner, a nice dinner, and I said, did he go to Longhorn? And then Kenny said,
went
maybe
to
Red
Longhorn,
Lobster.
had the sirloin.
Yes, he did.
Had the cheesy biscuits from Red Lobster.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And we have a co-host for tonight.
Nice.
So,
All right.
No cursing.
Yeah. That's all right. We got a big episode of PJ Masks that I'm trying to bait him into watching. So, no, I'm back from dinner, and so I cut out a little early. Some of the people at the dinner may be trying to spoil the comment section tonight. We're drinking a little bit, and I'm going to start commenting once I get it. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to put this out live.
If it pushes up our numbers, we don't really care.
Yeah. We're already live, so at this point, whatever, it's all going to fly.
All right, let's get into it, boys.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about, too, because Carrie's got a hard cutoff at 11 because he's got to go take a nap.
I got to be up for 6 a.m. basketball, so I may be on Carrie's bedtime, so...
We actually may be on the same bedtime and maybe in the same room. You never know.
We're filming from different bedrooms. Don't worry about it.
This is the time of the year when like nothing ever happens, right? For like work wise or anything like that. Like everybody's like on low key mode around.
Not in IT.
For us.
We do everything this week because no teachers are around or students. So we rebooted everything today just to patch stuff. Nobody complained. So I'll do it again tomorrow.
Well, until they come back in and then they start.
They'll complain. Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah. I was gonna say everyone wants like tax estimates by the end of the year. I'm like, oh, okay, you're gonna owe what you're gonna owe. What's it matter if you find out now or find out later?
I'd rather find out later.
Don't take the cruise now. We'll talk later.
All right, so I'm gonna put a question in chat, and then the first question that we're gonna go with is just because it's the hot topic of just kind of being trolls this year. So we'll kind of get our thoughts around that. We'll kind of let some people in the chat start talking about it, and then we'll talk. But I'm going to kick it off, and then as usual, we'll kind of just go around the table and talk about who you are, what you do, what newsletters you send out, how you score your Pappy 23s and 10s, and all that sort of stuff. All right. Horrible joke. I didn't get anything.
I don't know if I want to
never
tell
know
you
when
guys
I'm allowed to talk. I'm like, everybody be quiet. Keep talking. This is a very important section of it.
I don't want to give out my secrets, man.
There's no secrets anymore. All right.
Or don't you have like a drum roll? Like,
all right. Yeah. Okay.
Normally, always tells me a few minutes of silence.
All right,
God. Ryan's gonna sing the intro music. You're here with it.
Dear. I don't know.
All right. Welcome back to the episode of the Bourbon Pursuit podcast. Kenny and Ryan here tonight, and we have the 4th edition of the Bourbon Community Roundtable. This is an interview where we have ourselves as well as a few different predominant bloggers that are in the arena and around the I guess you could say the space, and we just kind of talk about some of the things. But really, the big one tonight is we really want to kind of look at a year in review of just kind of what happened in 2016. So before we kind of get into it and kind of start talking about really our first topic for the night, I want to go around the table and have everybody introduce themselves. So I'm going to send it over to Carrie. So Carrie, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey guys, I am Carrie. My website is Subrourbia, Subourbia. I'm on Twitter. I write an awesome article like once a month. And I just like bourbon. I really like bourbon a lot. Been following it for about 2.5 years now. Lately, I don't like bourbon as much just because of the whole industry and everything that's going on, but still try to follow and keep up to date with everything. So thanks for having me.
And Carrie was on before, and also check out, kind of tailing off that, check out the last episode we actually had just him on, and we talked about the 10 annoying, or what was it, the most annoying problems in bourbon right now, or something like that.
Yeah, I find that as the years have gone by, both of them, I think I focus a little bit more on the negative part of the hobby, and I think that's why people relate to me a lot, because there is a lot of crap that we deal with in this hobby, and I tend to highlight that. Trying to stay a little bit more in the positive realm, but there's just, as I'm tuning in here tonight, there's just stuff that's driving us crazy about this hobby.
The power of positive thinking, Carrie. Come on.
I'm trying.
Well, it's that time of the season where we can air our grievances, so we'll get to do that here in a little bit. So, Brian, go over to you next.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me again. Brian Harrow with Sipp'n Corn. At Sipp'n Corn on Twitter was where you'll find me most of the time. Got a blog, too, that focuses on legal history, lawsuits among bourbon, and then also do some reviews. And tonight I'm enjoying my bourbon of the year, which is Rebel Yell, which I never thought I would ever say that in the same sentence. But my Rebel Yell 10-year is my favorite of the year.
You had any good articles lately?
I haven't really. I haven't had a chance to do any of the many articles probably in the last month or so. And before that, I took about a 3-month period off before I had a chance to do any. So I've got about 12 in the hopper, so I'm hoping that Christmas break here lets me get some of those out and get some of the reviews out.
So LexisNexis is starting to update their database with new bourbon trivia.
That's right. Always new cases.
All right, and then Blake.
I'm Blake from Bourbonr.com. We have the Pappy and BTAC release maps that everyone hates, and also
restaurant recommendations.
Yeah, restaurant recommendations. Actually also the home of free samples. And then we have a Facebook group as well. And then you can find them on Instagram or Twitter, Bourbonr on Instagram, and Bourbonr.com on Twitter.
Did you say Bourbonr?
So this is as good of a question as BTAC versus BTAC versus Antique Collection. Is it Bourbonr or Bourbonr?
Bourbon Boner.
I've always pronounced it Bourbonr, and my reason for having no E was because it looked like Bourbonr.com, and that could be taken all kinds of different ways. Going to your kid's school function. Well, I also write a blog, Bourbonr.com. You can find me at Blake at the Bourbonr.com.
It's like you need a business card with that.
I know. Yeah. I'm not sure what that logo looks like, but it's probably inappropriate and a long bottle.
I think it looks like something Booker's puts out.
So speaking of Bookers, I guess let's go ahead and jump into that first topic. And I kind of wanted to kind of get at this because it's really the big news of what's happened lately. So Beam has had so just a 2016 year review for Beam. They've kind of done a whole lot of stupid shit, in my opinion. So they had the Knob Creek 2001, which was a limited edition with like 30,000 bottles or something ridiculous.
There's now batch 4 and 5 out as well.
Okay, so what are we up to now? 60,000 bottles?
Pretty close to it. Yeah.
Okay, so hardly to call it limited edition, right? And maybe it's not stupid shit, but it's definitely they are pushing the envelope, if you will. Old Granddad 114 is officially EOL, end of life, and everybody's going out and clearing shelves. And now they have just recently announced in the past week and a half that their regular standard Booker's, something that doesn't fly off the shelf. It's something that is a pretty solid bourbon. We talk about it pretty regularly on here. We had it even the last roundtable. We said, what's the good gift to give to somebody in the $50 range? And everybody pretty much said, well, yeah, Booker's. That's a pretty solid bourbon. And they said that they're now upping the MSRP to $99. So I'm going to pose it over to you first, Ryan. So kind of give me your thoughts. What do you think of what Beam has done this past year, and maybe the thoughts on Booker's in general?
My thoughts are it must come from Mila Kunis. Her contract just must be draining them dry. No,
she doesn't come cheap.
Exactly. But I think it's just a beginning of others doing this. The Booker's thing, does it bother me? No, because I only buy Booker's maybe every couple years. But the thing that concerns me is that others are going to catch on to this or do this, and I think it's just going to be a new trend that all the stuff that used to be common is going to be raised prices and more expensive. I think that's just what's to come.
Carrie, what do you think?
Yeah, I think.
Let me go last.
Got that. All right, Blake, you're up.
He's got something well prepared. Okay, I've gone back and forth on this. So, and I feel like I've read so much about it, I'm probably just plagiarizing someone else at this point. But they see other bourbons, other whiskeys selling for $100, and these NDPs that release like a Blood Oath or whether it's Barrel or whoever it is who are in that $90, $100 range, and it's like, oh, well, we should be there too. And instead of creating a different brand, they thought, hey, why don't we just make Booker's that brand? I think in a year or two, it could still be a good business decision, because how many times have we been asked, what's a good $100 bottle? Because I don't know, 100 has that magic number of, hey, I love you, $100 worth of bourbon, and so I think that's what they're positioning themselves to be. Now, as a Booker's drinker, I think it's a terrible decision, because that's always been my go-to. I posted this earlier this week, but I finally found a Booker's Brown Wax. It's the 82. I got a chance to take part in one of the Booker's Roundtable, so I've been a Booker's fan for a long time, and to see it now be out of that price range of saying, yeah, this is a great recommendation, that's pretty disappointing. I just want this to also be on record, just in case it happens. If they come back in early 2017 and are like, Fred No put his foot down and said, we will not sell Booker's for $100, it's going to be the biggest piece of marketing genius I've ever seen, because people are literally clearing every shelf they can find.
You stole my line.
Did I? I'm glad I went first. That's what you get for trying to back clean up, Carrie.
I know. I still back clean up. It's fine.
So all in all, to say, as a Booker's consumer, I'm pretty disappointed in it. But, from a business standpoint, look, it is what it is. The industry is getting flooded with more and more new drinkers, and most of them won't even realize it used to be a $50 bottle in another year or two. So that's where I am. And the Old Granddad, I think that was just, that's all going straight into Knob Creek now, I assume. So you now get to pay an extra $10 to $15 for it.
I was thinking it might be a new edition of Basil Hayden, like Basil Hayden Reserve or something that they're going to do, just another label to slap on it. And also
with that mash bill, it must be, right? I mean, they can't put it in Knob Creek because it's the Basil Hayden Old Granddad mash bill.
Oh yeah,
for that. And now they're putting Basil Hayden in a tube, for crying out loud.
At 80 proof.
Yeah, it's in a tube.
I didn't see the tube.
I haven't seen the tube.
So maybe so that's a good point. I think they might be coming out with some extra special Basil Hayden or something with that mash bill.
Brian, can you show the masses your sweater, by the way? Which
absolutely. This is
awesome.
a glorious,
Special.
glorious sweater. Still enjoying Christmas and
That's awesome.
And the UK victory in
That
Vegas
is-
the other day. So this is my Go Cats.
That's awesome. Did everybody else go, or Brian? Do you have anything else about the bookers?
Well, on bookers, I'll let the market either prove 90% of the survey wrong, or like Blake was saying, everyone will forget, and turns into being $100 bourbon. For my money, if you can find the Elijah Craig barrel proof, or a Four Roses private selection that's picked by somebody you like, and you've had good bourbons from them before, you do that. Or if you're in Kentucky, I think you get the Bullet barrel proof, or you get the barrel bourbon if you like that little bit more corny taste. There's a lot of options that are still under $100, and maybe those end up going up too in 2017. But those are now my buys over bookers.
All right, Carrie, let's see what you have just kind of
build up
here.
First of all, so everybody wrote articles about this whole thing, and I couldn't do it because, number one, it's an absolutely brilliant marketing move on Booker's part and Beam's part, because every shelf around me is empty of Bookers. I had my local guy say, "Listen, I got a case of something. It's Booker's Roundtable or Toogie's Invitation." And I was like, I don't give a shit. I don't care.
No, I heard there were some of the greatest palettes on that tasting.
Oh, is that
panel.
you? You ruined this whole thing. The second thing is, who gives a crap? First of all, everybody needs to understand that they have more power as a consumer than they even realize. Okay, think about Maker's Mark. Does everybody remember what happened with Maker's Mark a couple years ago, when they decided that they were going to change the proof and they were going to lower the proof a little bit so that they could make more juice and make a little bit more money, and there was a shortage? And what happened like 3 months later? They reversed the whole thing. Right.
That's right.
So it's the same thing. Like if you didn't buy Bookers before, you're not going to buy Bookers now when it's $99. And if you are pissed about it, don't buy it. Let it sit on a shelf. Let Beam Incorporated, Suntory, whatever, realize it was a terrible decision. Let them reverse it. And just don't buy it. Like if everybody just doesn't buy it, Beam is going to get the hint and reverse the whole thing. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. They can try, but at the end of the day, there are so many bourbons that are out there that are awesome. They are strong. They are good, and they are under $100. I mean, just look at like the Old Forester the Prohibition 1920. Yeah. I would recommend that all day long for $60. For anybody who wants a really strong, it's not quite barrel proof, it's 115, I think, but what is Booker's usually around that same proof anyway, right? So don't panic, relax, let the market and let you as a consumer dictate what's going to happen to Booker's in the future.
22 Catch 22 said he's still pissed at Makers to this day, by the way.
There's a guy who bought 2 cases of lower proof,
but didn't
Makers when it came out. It was just a little bit that came out, and he's sitting on it so that he can sell low proof Makers and make a bunch of money on it.
Right.
Pretty brilliant.
So Michael Lurado had the same kind of sentiment as you, thinking that it was probably just decision making and hopefully it's just going to be a fallout. However, he doesn't think that Beam's going to give in the same way that Makers did, because you got to understand, at least back when that happened with Makers, it was still kind of a pretty small family run business at that point. It wasn't owned by whoever they're owned by now.
Beam.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
When they get owned by Beam, I totally forget now.
I don't recall.
Somewhere in the mid to late 2000s.
Okay. Yeah, I can't remember when exactly that happened. But anyway, and then I kind of have the same sentiment as Jamie Albright in here. So he said that Beam's manipulating the demand to increase profits. Prior to this, Booker's wasn't exactly flying off the shelf, but in the end of the day, they want more money. I'll play devil's advocate here, right? Like, I don't like the decision, but you can kind of see where they're coming from, right? I would totally think that they want to get more money for what they're putting out there. I think, Fred Minnick and other people in the scene, they were all saying that it was a very undervalued bourbon for what it was in the very beginning, right? And I kind of think so too. Craig Rappert says, I think the juice is running low. I don't think that at all. I think they've got probably more than they can handle. And then if you had the chance, so the guys from Breaking Bourbon couldn't join us tonight, but they had a pretty interesting survey they had put out on their blog. And I'm actually looking at it right now, and it's close to 700 responses, 694 responses. And this data is actually pretty amazing. So, they asked things like, how often did you drink Booker's? The most responded was sometimes, and then the next one was rarely. Are you going to stock up on Booker's before the price increase? 47% said no. 31% said yes. I'll go ahead and put myself into the yes category. I bought one extra bottle because I already had 4 in the basement, but I'd figured I'm saving 50% now than I would next year. So we'll see. And then this is kind of the staggering one, which I thought was pretty impressive. Out of 694 responses, it says, will you buy Booker's when the price goes up to 100%? And the amount of people that said no was 615. So almost an 89% response rate said they will not buy Booker's when it gets to $100. So I guess that kind of goes back to you guys. Like, what do you think is a fair price for Booker's?
$56.99.
I say
that around here. That's still, you can get $56.99 all day around here in Kentucky.
I mean, it's good, right? But the ages have been going down. The price has been going up. It's kind of like bourbon, but
it's a 6-year barrel proof bourbon. It can't be, I'd say $60 to $70. I mean, hell, Elijah Craig, 12 years, $75, to $90. And I think that's much better option.
For
I agree.
For the barrel proof.
Yes, yeah.
No, they'll even still sell it at $50 at some places. I think MSRP is $49.99. Yeah, and honestly, like some of the companies who have their products out there, I think they're going to say, here's a couple companies that are raising their prices. Let's go in with our barrel proof 6 to 7 year or 8 years, stay at our price and watch our sales go up as everybody starts buying us, as opposed to the regular Booker's buyers who are now going to abandon ship. I think there's so much competition. How could every company decide that they're going to raise prices like this? They can't. Somebody's going to come in and say, "Oh, well, you guys are going to price it $100. We're going to price our barrel proof at $70."
Yeah, I mean, I think. Go ahead.
I just think we're at a point in the market where these companies are trying to push to see where that threshold is, and because it's so hot right now, they're kind of going to see what is that price point that we can push it to, and then once we get there, all right, we're going to slowly back it off there and then keep it at that, because it's just so hot right now, and they can pretty much sell anything they want.
That's definitely a good one to bring up, and that's what Craig Ruprecht said. That is at the same exact time. He said, "Let's not even get started on Willet." And he said they lost their damn minds in the gift shop this year. You can't do a year in bourbon review without mentioning that, and I totally agree. Talking about pushing the envelope, for the longest time, you could get. I would say in the past 2 years, you could go to the gift shop at Willet, and it was $10 for every year. So 12 year was $120, $125. Add a little tax, that's what it was out the door. Now they started pushing it a little bit. I think they had a 14 year that was there close to 3 weeks to maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, something like that. And I think they were trying to sell it for damn near like $225.
Yeah, it's $230.
$230. Yeah, it was $230 out the door, and it sat there. I mean, it sat there for a while. But however, people are going to buy it because no matter what, it's just what people are going to do. It just didn't fly off the shelves as it usually did. And then now they've kind of backed it down a little bit. And so a 12 year is around $165. So it's about an extra $50 on top of it. And is it undervalued? Maybe. At the end of the day, it's not like these distillers and these people in marketing, they're not idiots. I mean, they see what happens on the secondary market. They see what people are willing to pay, and they think, well, if we can get just a little bit more in our pocket, sure, why not?
I want people to stop saying the word Henry McKenna. Just stop talking about it.
Everybody wants to keep Henry McKenna on the radar.
No, it's terrible whiskey. Just move on to something else.
It's not that bad. I think it's pretty good for a bottle of bond at 10 years.
I was kidding.
He's trying to keep his secret.
I was kidding. I'm trying to keep people away. Henry McKenna is a great deal.
The Willet thing's interesting. Yeah, the Willet thing's interesting because they get not nearly as much, and maybe it's just because it's not as massive as a company as like a Beam, but they don't get nearly as much of the backlash from raising prices as some of these other guys do. You know, very rarely do you hear Willet's money hungry. It's no, Willet's just adjusting to the market, where everyone else it's like, oh, they're a greedy corporation. And that's always an interesting one to me, that Willet for some reason gets this always gets this nice pass. You know, it's good stuff. They seem to be the accepted NDP, but it is funny how they just keep pushing the price, and people are like, oh yeah, that's fine. That's
well, it still sells out in 2 hours. So
yeah, that's a part of it. Is it still sells out, and
the buyers need to blame themselves. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no, you're right.
The buyers blame themselves. Brian, who is your, on the flip side of that, who are the companies that you think are staying true to their pricing and not trying to rip off consumers?
No one.
Yeah.
Well, everyone's in it to make a profit. None of them are all altruistic and here to give us free bourbon. But let's see, it's probably been 3 years ago, Four Roses private selections locally were in the 45-ish range. And then they moved to 50 and 55, and now you're starting to see them at 65. So they're moving up slightly. So I would have said Four Roses, but they're inching up. But frankly, their private barrels have been worth every penny of that.
Yeah.
You know, Wild Turkey. You know, they've got their strange pricing similarities between Russell's Reserve and Kentucky Spirit, which cannibalize on themselves. I think one's a lot better than the other, but you know, they're both $45 to $50 bourbons depending where you shop, and they've been kind of that price for a little while. So maybe Wild Turkey, maybe
and
Brown
you have Master's
Foreman.
Keep and Diamond as well, though.
Well, and you still got Diamond on the shelves here. I mean, that was either a mistake on their part or just overpriced or overproduced, one or the other.
You know, if it sits on the shelves in Louisville, Kentucky, that there's something up with it.
Yeah. And I like the Brown Foreman comment. I think that Brown Foreman is the only one so far that I haven't been able to say jacked up the price on something. Say what?
Because it's terrible.
It's not terrible. Old Forester 1920 is great.
I just had the birthday 2016 Sunday, and I was like, this is not.
I love Brown Foreman products, but I got to try the 1920. But even Old Forester birthday bourbon has been, I mean, what was it, 3 years ago, I think? And it would sit 6 deep on a shelf.
Yep.
And I think I paid 80 or 90 this year. Now, that's not a huge increase. I would consider that in the reasonable range, but I don't know.
Here's my thing. Well, go ahead. Sorry.
No, Ryan,
Yeah.
Well, the whole Willits thing, I get why they get a, and here's why they probably get a pass. You know, they're a small family, owned company, and they only have 8 warehouses up there. And to be honest, I don't mind their prices as much because all their estate bottles, like, I enjoy them. I've never been like, oh, this is crap. Whereas if I go to Heaven Hill or something and get a Parker's this year, or William Heaven Hill, or others that I paid $300 for, and it's just junk. That's what pisses me off. I don't care paying about high prices. I just want the quality.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I still think.
Yeah, and Wilt's delivered. You're right.
Heaven Hill did a great job for a while of, even though they took the age statement off the Elijah Craig, I still felt like a lot of their products were in line with what you would expect. And then came Parker's Heritage 24-year, which just went from $99.99 retail to $249, $299 at the gift shop. So I love their products. I still think the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof is still probably the best deal out there for barrel proof bourbon. But hell, in 6 months it'll probably be $100.
I mean, with that, do you think it's because the year before was, well, that was a malt. Let's call that a bad year. The year before that one was a 13 year, right? And that was a $99 one. So you're adding on an extra, 11 years here. So do you really think it's because of the aging that they made it more, or just because like, hey, we're gonna try to jab and twist the knife as deep as we can and see how much blood we can squeeze out of here?
They got so much stock over there. I don't think it's the age. They got so much shit. They're just probably like trying to get rid of it and let's see what we can sell it for. That's my thoughts.
I think you pay for it now, unless you buy a orphan barrel.
Yeah. I think they were definitely they're the ones who were looking at Bottle Blue Book to see how they should price the new Elijah Craig 21 and then Elijah Craig 18 year when it re-released. So they were doing the exact same thing as everyone else, while they've kind of let these other brands, like, I think on the last roundtable, everyone mentioned Haven Hill Bottled and Bond, the one that's only released in Kentucky, as their favorite bottom shelf. But those upper brands, they've been pushing the limits. I mean, 18 year was a $45 bottle 5 years ago, and now it's $150 bottle. The 21 is $200 bottle. So they push it. Everyone does it, and you can't blame them because it's a business, but as consumer, it still sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Okay, so before we move on to the next part of this, just to kind of, we don't want to talk about Henry McKenna anymore because we don't talk about Henry McKenna.
We don't talk about it.
But we'll talk about Old Forest 1870. So there's a lot of people that kind of chimed in. So Robert Shaw said, Catch 22 said Old Forester 1870 is full of flavor. Another couple years on age, it would be really amazing. Robert Shaw said 1920 crushed Old Forester birthday of this year's releases. And then other people started chiming in about Wild Turkey. Speakeasy said Wild Turkey is staying true as anyone could hope. So I think there's a lot of same sentiments around there. So on the last roundtable, we talked about gifting, right? I mean, it's the holiday time. We're coming into Christmas right now, and we always get the questions of, what should we give somebody? But nobody's really asked us like, oh, what do you want to get? So I'll kind of pose it to you guys. So this money's not an object here, right? Because everybody's sitting here and we're trying to pull as much money and bleed as much money as they can out of us. So money's not an object. If you had the choice of any unicorn out there, what's it going to be? So I'll throw it to you, Blake.
Oh, man. So, I mean, if we're talking money's no object, I might as well shoot for the stars here. I'm talking like a Willick greening from Doug or, something crazy like that. But typically my favorite go-to bourbon gifts have been the 200 milliliters of National Distiller. So like an Old Grandad or Old Taylor, because they're kind of small.
Who's buying you those gifts?
Somebody that just got their trust fund.
But right, bourbon connoisseurs or like average Joe from down the street?
We'll say, I mean, like I said, there's no limits here. So I'm not telling you that like, well, I guess just go give me an Old Forester 1920 because there's nothing else on the shelves, right? I mean, this is somebody that like did the research, they went on the secondary market and bought it for you.
I think Blake froze up.
Yeah.
I mean, so the majority of the questions that I get for people are, what should I buy my husband as a Christmas gift? What's a good bourbon to buy my husband? Not what should I buy you, who has every bourbon that you could ever want sitting on your shelf, but what can I go out tomorrow and buy in a store? And I would say, number one, there are stores that have the Smooth Ambler store pick that get a barrel. That's a $55 or $59 or even $49. It's a great bottle to buy somebody. Some stores still have the Four Roses picks, although those are going up in prices. So those are now in the $60 to $65 range. If you can find a store that has an Eagle Rare barrel, absolutely every day, great use of $35. And then, you might move on to like an Old Forester product, like Old Forester 1920. Russell Reserve still makes some pretty awesome single barrel picks that you can still find around. And Knob Creek does too. So, I mean, there's plenty out there.
But Kerry, I'm asking you.
Yeah, but what would you want?
Say it was us in this group and we're all pitching to buy you a bottle. What do you want?
Size 18? Can you get me that?
Size 18?
Yeah.
Pre-2016, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take a Sazerac 18 from 2015 and earlier. But like, you know, people say, "What's your favorite bourbon?" It's one of the toughest questions to answer as a bourbon enthusiast, because anything I say, you're never going to be able to find in a store unless you've been shopping there for a long time or you know somebody. I mean, it's not just, I can't just rattle off my top 3 favorite bourbons or rye. You're not going to find it anywhere, right? So it's,
Well, yeah, that's the point. You're going on the secondary markets and buying it for you.
yeah, right.
All
They
right.
don't even know how to get to those.
All right. If I wish this was like around the table, I'm going to silence you. Brian, we're going to you.
I'm not even sure where to begin. I agree a lot with Carrie on this. I wouldn't know where to find some of these things because they're not available. But if I could have a 2006 Weller, I'd get that from the antique collection. Something more recent, I really liked the 65-gallon bourbon that Heaven Hill put out as a William Heaven Hill. I think it was the 4th edition. And then it was the same thing that Bourbonr got in Atlanta. And some of those bottles have made it out on the secondary because something funky happened with Bourbonr. So those are probably more accessible than the Weller. But it was, if anyone can get a hold of those, that's a really good bourbon to find somewhere.
Which that is probably still in one of my favorite bourbons, is that Bourbonr pick.
I've had it. It's excellent.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I actually got a free bottle of that. This is a crazy sidebar, but a friend of mine they were putting them on the shelves in a store in Savannah, and he was like, "Oh, that's an interesting bottle. I've never had it. It's only $45." And grabbed like 3 or 4 of them. Went back, grabbed like 3 or 4 of them the next week. Went back a third week, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that was a mistake. The distributor took all those back."
Well, I know the guy that reclaimed all of those. So.
Yeah. They like did a serious reconnaissance mission to get those things back.
Yeah, they did do too well.
So you've got a line on them then, Carrie?
I did. I passed them up.
Oh,
that was a big mistake.
Yeah,
those are fantastic.
Did my answer on the Christmas gift get through? My connection lost. I just want to make sure everyone knows what to get me for Christmas.
You said Henry McKenna, right?
Yeah. Yep. I said a case of Henry McKenna. You can find it at your local store, preferably one near Carrie.
Let it fly off the shelves. No, go ahead, Blake. I don't know if we caught that.
Well, I said my favorite gifting thing was, it used to be just the 200 milliliter flask bottles of something from National Distillers, Old Taylor or Old Granddad or something like that. But those have gotten more expensive in recent years. But if I'm buying for myself, it's probably going to be something like, I'm going to go crazy like an Old Willet, like the Doug's Green Ink or something like that, or the Velvet Glove and Iron Fist, one of the crazy old ryes or something. So just in case, I want to make sure that's out there if somebody's looking for me and they're ready to spend a few grand on a single bottle of whiskey.
Well, your friends obviously are nicer than our friends, because I'm sending I'll go buy some Old Granddad 114. And
Yeah.
And what about you, Ryan? I guess you want some more Parker's Blend of Mash Bills or something?
No,
that is
well,
such a good bottle.
That used to be my favorite, but after going to DC and to the mecca of bourbon bars, had the original Van Winkle rye in a green bottle. I think it was from like the 70s. I can't remember the year I was drunk, but anyways, it was the old medley, I guess, rye mash bill or whatever, and it was one of the best things I've ever had. So that would be it. Or this bottle called Bond and Lilliard. It's a National Distillers product from 1968.
Oh man, yeah. I guess you got to really enlighten or heighten your experiences when you got to go visit our old cohort Bill down there in DC, huh? So you got to go try a bunch of good stuff.
Yeah, that place. He has 6,000 bottles at his house. And
who is that?
Bill Thomas, that owns Jack Rose's in DC.
Yeah.
And then he has like 10,000 more at an undisclosed location. And Then there's 2,000 at Jack's at all times. So it's pretty insane, all the stuff that he has. It's crazy.
That's a lot.
So,
Like
he had one of my favorite Bourbon Pursuit podcasts on his, where he gave his phone number out at the end.
Oh, yeah.
And I've actually been texting with him about some bottles that I've been trying to get him in connection with. This lady, she didn't want to sell, and I'm like, well, there's this other guy. He's really famous for this stuff.
Yeah, he said he got like 10 phone calls, and he was like, I want to do it again because I got the most leads ever off your show.
Yeah.
There you go. You know where to sell your old bottles. So for me,
I have this old granddad on a swing. I don't know if that's worth the money.
it's nothing.
No.
Garbage. Just drain pour it.
Open it up. Yeah, open it up and drink it. Throw away the bottle. Keep the swing.
Yeah, the swing is cool. Just the bottle just goes like this. It's awesome.
Put your elf on the shelf on it. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll move into the
Kenny, we didn't hear your Christmas.
Yeah.
pick.
So if it's for me, I mine's kind of a I don't know. I guess I'm cheating a little bit because it's kind of a trio, but I want the Rittenhouse lineup, the 21, 23, and 25 year rise. So that's what I would want in the wooden tubes sitting on my shelves.
All right, we know what to get you now.
Yeah.
Guys, we'll have a call after this.
It's a lot of lawns for me.
3,500 later, make it happen. All right, so let's move into the kind of the next part, and really the main kind of piece of the show is kind of just talking about a little bit more about 2016 year in review. So I'll kind of pose the question to you, to Carrie. I'll pose it to you first. So do you think this year was a year of dud bourbons?
I would say yes, it was. I'd say for the most part, this was a pretty dud year of bourbon. Considering my absolute favorite bourbon or rye, bourbon rye, which is so interchangeable these days, is Sazerac 18, the tank stuff. And I just found this year's first distill of Buffalo Trace to be pretty bad, actually. Not even good, just pretty poor. Seasoned Wood, the big release, and I guess winter/spring was just okay to me compared to Cured Oak last year, which I thought was amazing. I did like the Parker's Heritage. I thought it was priced a little bit higher than I was expecting. Both of the Diageo releases sucked. The Gifted Horse and the god-awful 28-year Hoop and Holler. So, yeah, I think – and a lot of people – although I found the 2016 small batch, I actually enjoy it. A lot of people didn't like it. I mean, it was hard to follow up the 2015 limited edition small batch, but that and I think the Old Forester Birthday Bourbon didn't have great reviews. I think, yeah, in general, besides the Booker's Rye and the Parker's Heritage, I think a lot of bourbons were frowned upon this year.
Brian, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. It's all of the limited editions, which some of them, a handful, should be earth-shattering. None of them were earth-shattering. And so instead what we had, both have already been mentioned tonight, but the 1920 Old Forester and Rebel Yell, Luxco comes out with something. So it's been a year of duds for the limited editions, I think. But we've had some silver linings in some of the more affordable, attainable brands. So I've enjoyed those. I'm with you, Carrie. I liked the 2016 limited edition small batch. I've had only samples of the antiques, and nothing really was very good there. I didn't have the Old Forester Birthday Bourbon, but you all didn't hear very many good things about it. So I'm looking for something. All of the distilleries need to up their game for 2017, and let's see what they can do with it. And we know they have it in them. I mean, Booker's Rye to me was good, but nothing like the 25th anniversary. And with as much bourbon as Beam is sitting on, you know they've got something somewhere that can match that 25th anniversary, and that's what they're probably going to come out with, something truly limited every year instead of this Knob Creek baloney. So they can do it. We know Heaven Hill's got the stock. If Buffalo Trace would just release something, we know they've got some stock. So I got hopes they can do it, but they didn't do it this year.
I will say the one positive thing that wasn't talked about, missing the bourbon side. I thought the Four Roses limited edition small batch was significantly better this year than it was last year.
What?
Yeah, me too.
You don't think so?
I think so.
2015 was legendary. It was so good.
You think? I thought this year's was still a little bit better, but maybe that's
Yeah.
just me. All in all, they all beat 2014, so we can
Yes.
agree upon that.
Absolutely.
Right?
2015 was the second best besides the 125th.
Right. So I think they did a pretty decent job, but I totally agree, because you can look it around, you can read the forums, you can see what people see or people say. There's really only two that I think stand out from a lot of people, and that of course is Booker's Rye. I think we can beat that with a dead horse. It was named Whiskey of the Year. All of a sudden, the prices have damn near gone up 30% and overnight. The other one is, a lot of people, maybe it's just because there was so much more of it this year and there's just so many more people into it. But a lot of people said the 2016 William LaRue Weller was really good this year.
Yeah.
I haven't actually had a chance to try it, just
It was
because.
good.
But I mean, it's also because a lot of people see it. They think it's the white whale. They want to get it. And this was the year that they had, like 12,000 bottles of it or whatever. And so there's a lot more noobs that are in the game, and they think it's the best damn thing that they've ever had. So that could be a perception thing. It could be because they don't have a very refined palate, or they don't really know what they're looking for yet. But those are two that constantly or consistently read about. You know, I think every blogger that's on this panel tonight ripped apart BTAC pretty bad. In regards of Saz 18 and Eagle Rare. Now, one thing that I did find interesting was that a lot of people said that the Thomas H. Handy was a lot better than the previous years. So I guess it's still handy at the end of the day, but hey, at least it's better. And then, and Carrie, you kind of talked about it before we started recording this, is what were your thoughts on this year's Van Winkle lineup? What you thought about it in regards to previous years?
I didn't think the 10 was as good as 15. I never think the Lot B is good. I think every year I try Lot B and I think, how good? I don't even think it's worth retail. I have not had the 15. I have had the Rye, which is still the tanked stuff. This is the last year of the tanked since I think 2011, which is amazing. The 20 I have not had. I heard the 20 actually was terrible this year. And I've tried the 23, which was, it's not bad. You're never going to try 23-year wheat whiskey and say, wheated bourbon and say that this is bad. It just was very one-dimensional. Had almost like a bitter aftertaste. A buddy of mine down the street, I called him and asked if he wanted to try 23-year Pappy with me, and he ran up the street. And we both were just pretty unimpressed by it. So I don't think any of them have really been all that impressive. I think we've kind of felt that way for a couple of years now, and kind of know that Buffalo Trace probably is going to have a pretty difficult time matching Stitzel Weller and what they produced for the Van Winkles. But we can all say that I think that name is probably worth more than what's inside the bottle at this point. But I think it was a disappointing year in general. Now, I will say, going back to your William LaRue Weller, I think that's actually awesome this year. I think the 16 William LaRue Weller is a fantastic bourbon. It's full of flavor, lots of depth, really, really good, but not so much for the Van Winkle line.
Now, we also were talking about a different one that you were drinking before we started this, which was super limited, right? So like only 250 bottles of release, but it was this year's Heaven Hill Select Stock, which was a pre-fire release. So tell everybody a little bit about that.
Really good. I didn't know they only had, how many barrels did they have of that?
Not a whole lot. I think like 4 barrels.
4 barrels. Okay. So they released, I guess it was 20-year. They had a fire in 96, right?
Right.
And burned down most all the rick houses. And I don't know if the distillery itself was burned down, but
It got me out of school that day.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess they had some barrels left over, so they just recently bottled it. I think it was 100. Was it bottled in bond? But it was barrels from pre-fire, and I guess they aged them till 20 years, and it's awesome. awesome bourbon. But I mean, at 250 bottles, they're going to be even harder to find from here on out, and the price will just keep going up. But that was a really good release. I actually was a huge fan of Parker's Heritage this year. I like the older style, heavy oak on the
Basement tasting.
I think it was awesome. It was very polarizing. It was I think half the people
Some
hated
pump
it,
water,
half
in
the
my
people
opinion.
loved it. I was a big fan of it, but yeah, I even forgot what question you asked me.
Well, we're talking about, if we thought 2016 was a year of dud bourbon.
The duds.
We actually haven't heard Blake chime in yet. So Blake, we'll
Yeah,
give you
sorry,
a
I had
time on the
some
floor here.
internet connection issues, stupid Comcast. But I don't know. I think it was definitely a disappointing year from the limited release standpoint. For me, the antique collection was down in at least 3 of the categories. Van Winkle, I've heard, has.
And
And we lost him.
Yeah, we lost him. I'll have to now edit
Comcast.
that shit out.
I'll go.
20.
Yeah, okay.
Can
So
you hear
Ryan, let's get. Oh wait, Blake, you back?
Hello, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Hello,
Pick it up where you are.
can you hear me?
And he's gone.
They don't have internet in Florida.
All right.
It's limited edition internet down there.
That's right.
On
Oh,
Thailand.
Lord.
All right. Well, we'll cue him back in.
I want
So-
to hear Brian and Ryan's take.
Yeah.
First, Brian, or you want?
Well, Brian already went.
Yeah,
no?
no, I.
Oh,
yeah.
he did. Okay, that's
Yeah.
right.
It must have been memorable, huh?
I blacked out.
Man, I got my editing cut out for me in this one.
Yeah.
All right.
it was
So
fun.
Ryan,
Let's hear from Ryan.
2016 definitely duds for me. I think the Four Roses limited edition was pretty good, but not spectacular. Other than that, I really can't say I liked anything. The best thing I had was actually, I had it last weekend, and it wasn't even a bourbon. It was this Bainbridge Yama American single grain barley whiskey that was aged in like Japanese wood or something. I don't know. I had it at Jack Rose's, and it's by far the best thing I've had this year. But it's made out of this company in Seattle, and it's fantastic. It's freaking killer. Play duds.
Well, all right. So let's go. I'm gonna get some of the some comments that are coming in. So 22 Catch 22 says, I thought the Weller 12 sucked this year. Well, I guess it's Weller 12. I don't really know how to respond to that. Michael Lorado said, it was not a dud for me because there's always bottles I want and can't find. I really enjoyed the BTAC Handy, Rebel Yell, Old Forester 1920, Midwinter's Night, Act 4, and this was the year I discovered 1792 and Pikesville Rye. So I guess there is some of that people are trying to experiment and kind of go out and find stuff. I also think it's kind of a side effect of what Facebook forums and everything that's happening of everybody getting into bourbon as well, as everybody wants to go and find limited editions, and then they are severely disappointed sometimes. But at least with us, we've been around it enough that maybe 90% of our bar is nothing but limited editions. So
We didn't talk about 1792.
Oh, go ahead, talk about it. What do you think about 1792?
Can y'all hear me?
Blake, shut up.
Yes,
You're out.
Blake. We
Yeah,
can hear you.
Blake, you're muted for the rest of the thing here. So.
I've lost all privileges due to internet.
Can
I actually
we hear
moved,
you
so if the
now?
lighting's not as good, that's probably.
And he's gone. 1792 was they did the foolproof this year, and I think that was a I think a lot of people like the foolproof. I think for $50, it was a nice little bourbon. To me personally, every 1792 tastes the exact same. It's the same way I feel about Jefferson's. Anything Jefferson's finished in
I agree. It tastes the same.
cask tastes like Jefferson's.
I will say I like that Blake had a pretty good assumption on the last, or was it one of the community roundtables, and talking about how 1792 is where Sazerac's heading to see how they can expand the brand and really make it more appealing to more people. And that's why they're trying all these different finishes and releasing these limited edition pieces. But I do like that they are coming out with the foolproof. It's not barrel proof, but it's entry proof. In my opinion, I'm not a huge fan of the barrel proof version of the foolproof, or the foolproof version. I do think that the single barrels of 1792 provide a little bit of the ability to kind of discern a lot of tastes between a few of the different single barrels, because when I taste the foolproofs kind of next to each other, I'm like, I honestly can't tell a difference, guys. So
we're pretty similar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
I think it was a good year for like the mid-range. Welcome back. I think it was a good year for like the mid-range bourbons, like the foolproof, the 1792s. They had some good releases. There were a few other ones that they slid into that $40 to $60 category that were pretty good. But all in all, I mean, I don't think anyone was blown away by any release this year, except for, I thought Booker's Rye was really good, but it was $300, so it's hard to get too excited about something that's priced at secondary from the get-go. And then, William LaRue Weller was really good, but how many people are going to get their hands on a bottle of that? So it's just getting harder to, find a mass market with bourbon that is really good. Yeah.
The only thing I would say is the longer we put up with the bull crap that we have to deal with, the closer we get to age statements coming back to bourbon because of excess inventory. I mean, what's the stat on the number of barrels aging in Kentucky? Isn't it more than the number of people living in Kentucky right now?
Yeah.
And it's only getting bigger.
But that's just because nobody wants to live in Kentucky.
We're going to catch up. Right. We're going to catch up with that. Eagle Rare 10 years going to put the number back on the front. Elijah Craig's going to put their 12 back on the front. There's so many options for people. We are spoiled because we love our great deals and the age statements and the barrel proofs at great low prices. But the truth is, the distilleries know this. They've been ramping up production for a couple of years. I mean, how much longer do we have to sit through this bullcrap before everything turns back in our favor?
Yeah, no, I honestly think it could be another decade before.
You're a pessimist.
No, I'm an optimist for the distilleries because the market is so huge. I mean, we're sitting here talking about this, but we're that 1% of the market. There's still that other 99% that is just now getting into it, and they're still buying $4,000 of bourbon a month on Jefferson's and Elijah Craig just because it has 12-year on the back label, and they're stocking up Elmer T. Lee by the caseload. There's still a lot of that out there.
Well, and honestly, 99% of the bourbon buyer goes into Total Wine, and they say, "What do you recommend?" And they say, "Let me show you this awesome Wathens bourbon, or this particular private label bourbon made by somebody for them." So I think still the average consumer of bourbon probably still, they know that bourbon is hot, but they still don't know what brand to get when they walk into a store.
Mm-hmm.
So here's an interesting thing that was brought up by one of the people commenting, and I kind of want to get Brian's take on this. And so 22 Catch 22 said, with the pressure on timber, I think they're using wood that has been properly aged and dried. And so do you think that that's why a problem of this year's duds is because of a problem with wood? I mean, honestly, I don't think it is, because they would have had to do that. Nothing's being put out that's
24 years ago.
Right.
That would have been a problem
years ago.
Yeah, exactly. That would have had to been a problem a long time ago. So that I've heard too, that there's going to be some lumber shortages. So that's going to be a problem when this glut that we've got starts coming in at 6 years and 8 years old, for probably in the next 2 or 3 years, 2 to 4 years. When we start getting that, that's when we might start seeing it. Now, I know that Brown-Forman with their own cooperage has done a really good job of making sure that they've got the right supply, and they're still taking the same steps they do to age it and all those sorts of things. But there's not a lot of people making barrels out there. So I think what we'll probably see is we'll run out of barrels, and you'll be doing, what's the Brown-Forman brand that ages in used barrels? I don't even remember. It's I can't even think
Jack
what that
Daniels.
is. They might as well. But I think we're gonna start seeing some used barrels come in, and brands trying to tout American whiskey and not being able to use the bourbon name, because I think we are going to run out of wood.
Yeah,
but not yet, and it's not affecting anything right now.
So,
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. No, I've talked a lot. Go ahead.
That's. I think, I don't know. It might sound crazy, but I think in like 6 to 8 years, it's kind of going to be like the beer market is now. Like everything special releases from these small breweries, and I think the craft distilleries are going to have to pick up and do these special releases. That I know it's going to take a while, but I think that's where you're going to get the value and the difference in the wow factor of these special releases from these craft distilleries in the future. I think the big companies are just going to move towards their, Elijah Craig's, their staple products, because that's their most profitable. And I think the craft distilleries are going to have to pick up for the special releases moving forward. Maybe I'm crazy, but
they'll be really limited by then. So let's hope not.
Just wait for, there's a craft distillery here in Atlanta that has made their own bourbon, and they're aging it in a warehouse in Atlanta here. And I tried it recently at only 16 months, and it's amazing. They're going to be the next Willett. I'm just saying, they're going to blow it away.
I think that's 100% correct. We're going to start to see these small craft distilleries that are doing cool stuff, and there's enough of them now. There's like 1,100 craft distilleries in the U.S. right now. Someone is doing something cool and interesting, and their experiment is going to turn out really well. And that's where the market's going to eventually go. It's going to go more regional, where, Caribbean in Atlanta is going to want to support this distillery instead of buying a $70 bottle from some guy across the country. So I think that is definitely where bourbon and whiskey will go within the next 6 to 8 years, maybe even sooner than that, just depending on who has aging stock. Because eventually we'll stop grading it on that kind of craft curve of, yeah, it's good, but it's still young. It's craft distillery. Eventually it'll just be, and that's when I think all these pricing decisions will be really big mistake for the big brands.
Duke Holbrook says, so the Booker's wooden box is the real culprit here.
That's my uncle. Watch out.
All right, so we're getting pretty close to the end here. I know Blake and Carrie have got to run off to bed here soon. So
I just want to throw a commercial out there. So this is Booker's. This is Tuki's Invitation. This is priced right now at $56.99. I would run out tomorrow and buy all of these up, because I don't know if you know this or not, but they're going up to $99. And this wood, I mean, this is fresh wood on this box right here. Okay,
and it was hand selected and handcrafted by one of the best tasting panels in Booker's Roundtable history. So
is your name on the bottle? Because it's on like 18 other bottles, but did you put your name on this one? You should have.
My nickname in high school was Toogie, so yeah.
I saw Bourbonr on here. That's why.
It says Bourboner's big.
Just be smart as consumers. Stick with this hobby and just don't.
If you look at the bottom of the bottle,
And internet.
Don't buy stupid shit.
Don't buy Blake's internet.
All right, so let's kind of wrap this up. So I kind of want to leave everybody with one last thought. I want you to say, what's one thing that you were happy about and one thing that pissed you off in 2016 in regards to bourbon? So whoever wants to go first.
Carrie, go.
No,
You're
give me a minute
chomping at
to
the
round
bit.
it up. One thing I was happy about.
Anything?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that was good about bourbon in 2016, right? It's really easy for us to sit here and point out all the negatives because we kind of live and breathe and die by this stuff. But kind of pick out a good moment and then talk about one thing that just kind of really irks you and gets at you about this year.
All right, I'll jump in on something good, and it's not a brand in particular, but I think bourbon enthusiasts are using their power for good, and we've had a lot of bourbon groups raising money this year. I was at a Jim Rutledge event that raised something like $28,000 for the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, which is near and dear to Jim's heart, a cause he supports. And no one was really celebrating his 50th since he had left. So put a bit on a big party for him and raised a bunch of money. And there's other groups that have been raising money through charity tastings where they get the rarest of all rare bottles in, and you get a 1 ounce pour and you pay a bunch of money, and it all goes to a good cause. And so as more people get into this hobby, I'm hoping that really takes off, because we can really support a lot of good causes. And you got to name something that pissed you off too. Something that pissed me off, and maybe this is the Bourbonr logo that Blake is looking for, but stop with the crotch shots, guys. I don't need to see any crotch shots in 2017. Let it die. Let it die.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
I would agree with that. It's a good call.
Hold on, are we saying something we like about? Sorry, my internet was cutting out. Are we
Oh, how
saying something
weird.
we
Oh,
like about
surprise.
bourbon, or we hate?
One of each.
So Blake, so the question is that what was one thing you were happy about and one thing that you're pissed off about in regards of bourbon in 2016?
Gotcha.
We'll come back to you, Ryan.
Go.
You want me to go?
Yeah.
One thing I guess making me happy is seeing my hometown just change and grow so much from this industry. Bardstown is just, it's so crazy how much there's warehouses popping up, jobs being created, new restaurants, new bars, hotels coming in. It's really exciting to see the change. We talk shit about these big companies, but they are really making an impact in the local area there. But the thing that pissed me off is these freaking fucking liquor barn emails that they send out and that let everybody know that stuff's coming out. And it's like, people are just going to show up because you're sending an email about it. I don't know. I wish it would just go back. We put it on the shelves. Don't tell anybody about it. And who shows up gets it, versus doing these big ordeals of raffles and, send an email blast where you have to get there early for freaking Weller 12. It's just pissing me off, and it's got to stop.
I can second that one. I totally partly agree.
Agreed.
Yeah. Raffles can suck a dick.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah.
All right, Blake, what do you think, man? Blake, you there, buddy?
Is it me? Oh, I couldn't hear you.
Oh yeah.
Your 56K download speed.
That's good talk.
We might have to
He's just playing with
slice
us
this
now.
in later or something like that.
My internet is terrible tonight. I don't know what is going on. I'm doing a speed test and it's like 2 up and half a megabyte down or whatever it is.
Blake is an
so I'm
IT
just gonna-
guy. Check. Do you have kids?
Yeah.
Turn off their iPads because they probably have like
They're streaming
10,000
Netflix.
games that are turned on that are streaming internet.
No,
I have to go through
I
the house
guarantee
and
it's
shut
my
down
wife
every
watching
kid's
like
device.
every episode of Gilmore Girls right now. That's just like killing my internet speed. She's yelling at me from the bedroom saying, "It is not me." So one thing I like about bourbon is there is a whole lot of new guys coming in constantly, and I kind of see it a lot with Bourbonr, people getting into the hobby and having an appreciation for everything. So that's always fun. And kind of on the point that Brian said is there's a lot of people doing bourbon. Bourbonr, for as much junk as we put on, we've raised close to $5,000 for a nonprofit in regards to it's a cancer fund. So just things that we can do with these bourbon bottles is always pretty cool to see. Now, one thing I would hate is just the amount of attention that's focused on limited editions. So I'm probably just as guilty as this as anybody, but a guy who's new to bourbon doesn't need to go out and pick up Four Roses single barrel limited edition, some bottle with Van Winkle on it, and some Stag or something. There's so many other great bottles that they could be getting into, but the focus is on these limited editions. And I think that's just, it's misguided because, one, you don't even know your own taste palette yet. And two, you're just spending a whole lot more money than you need to before you're really getting into the hobby. So
good. So Catch 22 said Blake needs to learn sign language. So I'll kind of wrap this up.
Or Morse code with his internet speed.
I haven't gone yet.
Oh, Carrie, you haven't gone yet? I'm sorry. Go ahead, man.
Carrie, you're
say
talking so
the
much
thing
that
that
I assume you'd answered the question.
No. The thing that I love about bourbon and rye and why I still love this hobby are the memories that get created through bourbon and rye. We'll have guys over that have never even seen, they've heard of Pappy Van Winkle, they've never tried it. I'll pour them a Pappy. We'll have a great evening of talking about bourbon, pouring great bourbons, and they'll say, man, I remember that time I came over. It was so much fun. I had a great time trying all this stuff. I mean, those are the memories that are why we are in this hobby, right? We're in this hobby not only because it's enjoyable and it's fun, but you make some great connections with people and you have some great memories with it. And in this year, 2016, I had a lot of great connections with people. And that's why I'll keep staying in this hobby, even as everything else about it pisses me off. People taking off age statements, raising prices, dumbasses taking over the hobby, just the way it is. But the memories definitely overshadow all of that bad stuff.
So is there like a single one thing that pissed you off, or is it just everything in general?
Just everybody, even all of you fucking guys here, except Brian. You've never pissed me off, Brian. And Brian, you haven't either. And Blake,
Hold on.
until your
I'll work on it.
Sucked, you didn't either.
Awesome. So
the IT guy in him is coming out. He's just like, oh, this stupid internet connection. How can you?
You should have asked him if he turned it off and turned it on again.
Yeah, I know. Reboot. He already did 5 times.
I did.
3 times.
I did.
So I'll kind of wrap this up and thinking about this, I'll kind of start, everybody kind of start off talking about, what they were happy about. And I'll kind of start off by kind of what pissed me off. And I think it's kind of going, tag along with what Carrie was saying is just the Facebook explosion of what we've been seeing. It's the groups we're not supposed to talk about, but some of the groups are reaching astronomical numbers. And with that become, as Carrie said, more and more people that are just getting in the hobby and all they want to do is find limited releases. It kind of goes back to what Blake was saying. And then it makes it harder for us who are, picking up 8 George T. Stags back in 2014. That was easy. This year, getting one was an incredible feat that was pretty damn tough to do. So getting anything limited edition now is pretty much pissing me off because of the amount of competition that has come up around here. But all this has an inverse effect. The inverse effect is that everybody sitting here tonight has gotten just a little bit more popular in the past year because of it. The podcast has really taken off. We've got a great listener base. There's been 40 people that were actually watching this podcast that happened live tonight. I'm sure all the bloggers here on this roundtable can say that their following has increased. So I'm glad to see that, there is a lot more interest in it. And I think that's what's great. Maybe it's bad on us because all we ever talk about is limited releases, right? I think we should maybe get back to talking about maybe just Henry McKenna or something like that. But with that, I think that, like I said, it's gotten so popular that it's had a good inverse effect on what we've been able to contribute back into the greater bourbon community.
Yeah.
Well said.
And we do this as a hobby, right? Because we love it. It's a hobby, but the people that we meet and the people that we impact and the relationships that we make, those are real. And so it's awesome to see a hobby translated into something where you can affect people on a real side, which is cool.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and let's wrap it up. So go around the table real quick. Carrie, you go first. Who you are, where they can find you, how they can get in contact with you.
Carrie, on Twitter, follow @bourbon_gamer. On Facebook, look for the Subrourbia, SUBOURBIA. That is my blog, Subrourbia.com. I'm also in the Bourbon Penthouse calendar. I'm January, so look for that, and we'll see you guys soon.
Brian.
I'll jump in. Brian with Sipp'n Corn. Find me on Twitter @SIPPNCORN, or search the Google blog spots for Sipp'n Corn. And thanks for our 40 guys for watching, and all you too.
He's February, by the way. That was a great layout.
It was a really cold month.
That you had your sweater on. Just the sweater.
That's quote of the night.
All right, Blake, finish this up.
Blake, therealbourbonr.com. And no, BlakeBourbonr.com. On Twitter, it's Bourbonr.com, and then Instagram, it's Bourbonr. There's a Facebook group as well, or if you have any questions, feel free to email me at blake@bourbonr.com.
Awesome. Want to say thank you all again for joining the show. Make sure you follow us as well. For anybody that's out there listening to this, it's @Bourbon Pursuit on Twitter and Instagram, and we also have Facebook.com/Bourbon Pursuit. If you do like what you hear, make sure you support the show on Patreon. So thank you to everybody that is supporting the show. We actually will have t-shirts here relatively soon. So it's patreon.com, patreon.com/Bourbon Pursuit.
Hey, Kenny and Ryan.
Yep.
How many podcasts are you up to now?
This will be 78, I believe. This week is this release.
Wow.
You guys are, I'd say from all of us in the bourbon community, thank you for all that you do for your podcast. I know it's a lot of work to do it as often as you do it and interview all the people that you do, but I think we all look forward to all of your podcasts and all of your hard work. So thank you guys for all that you do too.
You can thank
Absolutely,
Kenny.
guys.
Most of it. I just show up and make random comments.
Well, cheers, guys. You help give us the content, so it makes it really easy.
Yeah. Cheers, fellas. I'm going to bed.
It gives me plenty to listen to on a long commute to work. So I do thank you.
All right, Ryan, wrap it up for us.
Yeah, thanks, guys, for taking your time. I know you are ready to go to bed. Get your day ready tomorrow to fix some computers and prepare some taxes. So have a good night. And thanks, guys, for listening. Have a happy holidays, and we'll see you next time.
Cheers, fellas.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Enjoy.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right, you guys take care. Thanks, everybody else that joined in. Pleasure coming in, reading some of these comments. Pretty good. What's up with Bottom of the Barrel? That other podcast that we don't talk about. I don't know. I mean, we've actually had a few. So there's been 3 other podcasts that I think have popped up in the past month or two.
Including the KDAs.
Yeah. So KDA created their own.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't see
they
that.
have our own tagline and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's another one, Heart and Tales, I saw. I didn't realize KDA had one. Oh, man.
Yeah, I missed it too.
We're gonna
Put it this way: you go to iTunes and you type in the word bourbon, you know who comes up as the #1 result.
yeah.
That's all that matters to me.
We paid for reviews.
We put out fake news, so that's why.
Yeah, you're just in.
So when catch I have no idea what's at Bottom of the Barrel. Oddly enough, like we make the podcast, but I don't really listen to a lot of podcasts that are out there. There's only a limited few that I listen to. So
I don't listen to any bourbon ones, just other topics. Yeah, podcasts.
Yeah, I was like, if we got paid for this, we might be able to put out more in a week. But this free hobby takes up enough time as it is. So you can expect maybe just once a week.
A good format, though. I mean, it's once every week. That's people don't realize how much work goes into just
A ton.
one episode. So I feel like it's nice to at least get one a week. I think you're doing well with that. So if I need more on my daily commute, I'll start asking for more. But
we'll just have you on if we need
with better limited internet connection. So
different connection.
We'll make you get on LTE before you.
Yeah, well, I noticed the Apple TV went off in my bedroom, so now I'm talking freely. So
how weird, right?
Yeah, it's strange how that happens. But all right, I got a big basketball game in the morning. First game back after a torn hamstring, so I got to be mentally and physically prepared. So that's how you know you're getting old, when you start having like serious injuries in men's league basketball games and that kind of stuff. So.
Well, make sure you got that hook shot ready to go.
Oh, man.
Brian was hiding that the whole night. What'd you do?
Yeah. Oh, this is my broken finger. So I've been out of my league now for 3 weeks. But no pins, no pins though.
I've been out of my league for 5 years, and I have no excuse.
I've never been in a league, so.
My wife likes to make fun of it because I kind of hurt my hamstring in a softball game, but then luckily I played basketball a week later, and my hamstring turned black and blue. I'm like, oh yeah, I was definitely playing basketball. It had nothing to do with a softball.
Nothing to do with softball.
Man,
that was no part of it at all.
Yeah, I'm short and white. There's nobody's invited me to play any basketball leagues.
Yeah. As I'm there for exercise. They're like, okay, if you could just like run up and down the court several times and
just rebound.
Yeah. I got this. All right. Enjoyed it, guys. See y'all.
Yeah, you can get out of here, Blake. Yeah, so I'm gonna stay on and just talk.
Sign off too, guys.
All right. See you later, dude. Later, Brian.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Thanks for joining.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays.
You too.
Yeah, you too. And thanks to everybody else that was joining on and kind of talking through the chat right there. So Kylie said Jimmy Russell interview should go to the Smithsonian. Honestly, it was actually really hard to interview Jimmy.
Yeah, it was. Eddie was much easier.
Yeah, like Jimmy, maybe it's something, it's a generational gap or something like that. But whenever we go and we interview a lot of the old timers, it's like really like quick to the punch kind of responses. So we're like, how was your day? They're like, fine.
Yeah,
like, that's it. Like there's
him and Al Young and some others. Yeah, we've had that. When you had the mic off, they were great, but once you turned it on, it was like something in their head switched and they just couldn't translate it to the with the microphone on.
Yeah, I thankfully right now I think we've got it down that we have a formula. Try to figure out how we can get as much information as we can and ask the right questions and dig a little deeper and say like, oh, we'll talk about that just a little bit more.
Can you elaborate?
Yeah. Can you use it in a sentence, please?
What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So it was definitely good. Yeah. So Catch 22, the Fred Minnick interview. So oddly enough, I checked the stats probably about every 3 days about who has the most downloads and the most reviewed podcast. And so by far, Bill Thomas at Jack Rose's has the #1 spot. But actually Fred Minnick now has #2, which oddly enough, both of them take over any master distiller that we've ever had on the show. And so it kind of goes to, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it's like, do we need to take a different spin on this? Like, does anybody actually care to listen to some of the master distillers anymore? Because it seems like a lot of people just want to hear people bitch about bourbon more than actually hearing the stories behind it.
Well, I think with the master distillers, you're just going to get people regurgitating their, what their PR people tell them to say, their spiel. And so it's like, whereas you get Fred on or Bill, or somebody's interesting who doesn't have an affiliation or agenda, they just kind of go with how they feel or whatever, or their true thoughts. People find that more authentic and interesting, I think, or at least I do, anyways. Because
that's what
Jimmy, or even with Jimmy, he was trying to do like, get into that well, let's talk about the whiskey. It's or the whole.
Yeah, the marketing spiel that he has to do in every place that he travels to go and just talk about, oh, here's Kentucky Spirit and this is how it's distilled and la la la. But
this is why Wild Turkey's better, which it's all good and stuff, but everybody here, you can get that anywhere.
Right, I'm with you. And so I guess also talk about because you sent me a text message about getting Fred back on the show. What was Minnick saying?
Yeah, I mean he. I went to his house last week because he had a bottle of bourbon to give me, and he was like, "Man, I really want to come on the show again. I had a lot of fun. I want to keep expanding my brand, and I think it's a good way. I think doing a once a month thing would be great if y'all are interested. I don't know. So,
wow,
and this is like
doing this once a month and then once a month with him. That's a lot of time just having the regulars on here. So.
Yeah, I know.
I think we could definitely do him like maybe once a quarter or something like that. Once every 3 months, something like that. I think that'd be good because he's a wealth of knowledge, and I think also that's also one of the things is that at least we're small time, right? We're small time. Right. The guys on the round table here tonight, we're small time in regards of what it is, and. There was actually a question that they were posing in our Twitter DM chat of saying like, oh, should we ask the question, should bourbon bloggers get samples? And of course, any bourbon blogger, anybody that wants to get in bourbon is like, well, hell yeah, that's like half the perk of being into it is getting free bourbon, right? So
it's the only perk.
yeah. There's not a whole lot of money to be made off this. Yeah. Not yet. We're trying to figure it out. But I think, but with him, he's big time, right? He's much bigger. He's got lots of books published. He's the one that pretty much everybody goes and talks to about, hey, come and speak about this and that, and at the Derby Museum thing, all this other kind of stuff, right? So he doesn't really have an attachment to a distillery, and he'll sit there and tell them that their shit does stink, and so I think
they don't like it.
And I think that's why it's really good is because he definitely comes from off the cuff and doesn't hold back and definitely has a very strong demeanor about it. So I think that's what a lot of people really liked about it as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Somebody asked what bourbon did he give you?
It was barrel bourbon number 8, I think. It's like 100.
That's what we haven't had Joe on yet. And like I said, we've been trying to get Joe on from Barrel Bourbon for a little while now. He's actually he bought a place here in Louisville because he actually travels back and forth between Louisville and I think Pennsylvania, maybe where he's from. But he should be, we're trying to get him on because I don't know much about Barrel Bourbon. I mean, I see it. It's like an $80 or $90 bottle. Never had it. Except for like tastings and stuff like that. It's not bad, but I've never been like inclined to say I need to go out and buy it right now. So
yeah, I've never bought it. I've had friends that I've had the 2 and 3, and I remember those being really good. And then I've had others that were not good at all, and I haven't had this one yet. Mm-hmm. So I'm not. It's 138 proof, so it's pretty high up there.
It's up there.
And it says it's distilled in Tennessee but bottled in Georgetown. So I don't know if.
And that's also one of the weird things about having them on. I'd be like, so where are you sourcing your bourbon? Like that's the only thing anybody really wants to know, right? But we can't ask that question.
I guess from like Dickel or something or Jack Daniel. I don't know.
I honestly couldn't tell you. So I do know that they are bottling out in Crestwood. That's where they're doing bottling at.
Where Jefferson's is.
Yeah. So they're doing that there. So Catch-22 said getting Michael Veach on. I actually went this route.
I actually had Veach over my house last week.
The fuck you had Veach over your house for?
Because Bill gave me some samples to give to him. So he came over and I gave them to him, and he was here. He wasn't here that long. Maybe
okay. I was like, hanging out with him on a Friday night? Like,
no.
Okay.
I would love to have him on, but yeah, you go ahead.
Before you stop yourself before you went too far there.
Yeah.
So we actually tried to have Michael Veach on probably 8 months ago. I tried barking up that tree because I thought he would have been a really good monthly person to come on and kind of talk about bourbon history. Like we could have an episode of like just talk about National Distillers history, like for 30 minutes, just go.
Yeah.
And then I thought like, oh, we could do that. We could do history of just different brands, like whatever happened to like Martin Mills 24-year export to Japan, and like all like we could go on things like this for all the time. But problem is that he is now like bourbon is how he gets paid.
Right.
He doesn't do anything except get paid to speak about bourbon. And so his publicist is Maggie Kimbrell, who we had on the show very, very early days. I think she was like in the first 15, maybe something like that.
We still had our one mic.
Yeah, we still had one mic. This mic right here. We all used to huddle around and talk to. And she said, yeah, he could come on the show and just kind of like talk about him and what he does, and that's about it. Like, you guys can't go into any history about different brands or anything like that, or we have to charge you like $100 an hour or something like that. Like,
that takes all our monthly budget.
Yeah, so I was like, well, that's not going to happen. So yeah, getting Michael Veach on to talk about anything that's other than him is going to be pretty much impossible and not going to happen. So we tried it, but not going to happen. Yeah. Any chances of a spinoff called the Rye Pursuit? Probably not.
We talked about the Rum Pursuit.
Hey, I tell you what, Kyle, if you want to go start Rye Pursuit and we can kind of bundle it with Bourbon Pursuit, I might be up for it. You know, that was one thing that I've been contemplating it for a while right now, because get Kickstarter for Veach. Yeah, that maybe. It's gonna have to be a 5-hour episode though. We'll just get it all into one. So because we're not paying for travel, we don't want to like saying 30-minute travel like that goes into it. So anyway, back to topic here. So, you know, the one thing that's is the guy said earlier, this podcast does take a lot of time. You know, the time it's spent from emails and coordination to driving around. This was just the recording, right? And as you can tell, there was some fuck ups that happened in there. So I've got to push it out. Then I've got to download it. I've got to listen to it. I got to cut out the parts. I kind of got to put it together. And then I got to actually, so once it's all sliced together, then I actually have to put it to music and add in our Patreon commercial and all this other kind of stuff towards the end. So, I mean, I'd say on the average episode, I've gotten it down to about 3 to 5 hours of maybe time that's getting put into it, because I have to listen to it, download it, and do all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. And so I've been contemplating of, you know, how do we expand this out to get possibly more people involved with it? So I haven't really pulled the trigger yet, because I think the one big thing that is the real reason why we would do this is because we have so many actual craft distilleries that send us emails probably on a weekly or bi-weekly basis saying like, we'd love to come on your show. Yeah. But the problem is that, you know, we've done a few craft distilleries and it's fine. You know, we can kind of get their name out there and help spread their message, but 95% of the time their distribution is only within their state or even within their city. Like, it doesn't really reach that far. And so it doesn't really mean a whole lot to a lot of people. So that's why we really haven't really ventured down that route. But I did toy with the idea of, well, what if we had more people that were underneath the Bourbon Pursuit umbrella and they went out and did all the craft distillery interviews, and then we could actually have more releases in a single week. So that was one thing that I kind of toyed with having that idea. So we'll kind of
having some like regional people do it, is that what you're saying?
It doesn't have to be regional. I mean, you got to understand like how many craft distilleries are in Pennsylvania. We don't need a Bourbon Pursuit team in every single state.
Well, right. Well, I was just thinking, Northeast or Southeast or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If we were able to recruit like 4 more people to actually go and do like all the Google Hangout sessions for every single craft distillery that's out there. I mean, there's freaking hundreds, right?
Right.
So there's no shortage of people that want to talk about their story and their craft and all this other kind of stuff, right? So
no, for sure.
So that would be one thing that we could do for anybody that wants to find a lot more work and very little pay. So
we know what that's about.
Yeah, if you really want to do this for the fun of it and not for money by any means, yeah, we can try to figure something out.
But I will say it is a good opportunity to meet people and get inside the industry and get invited to events and, kind of see the industry from a whole new perspective versus just as a consumer. That's the reward for us, I guess.
Yeah. And swag. I mean, they sometimes, they send us T-shirts and stuff, which is kind of cool. I end up giving most of them away on Patreon anyway. So,
and some Applejack.
Yeah, and some Applejack brandy. Hard pass on that one. And then let's see. I would do it. Michael says I'd do it in New York. Like I said, this doesn't have to be anything regional based because Michael, you can be in New York. You can have another guy that's in California, and then you're interviewing a distiller that's somewhere in Kansas. That's the joy of Google Hangouts and how this all happens, right? So it's kind of real easy to make that happen. But yeah. I don't really see any other questions. Catch-20, is Bulleit still using Four Roses stock? Yes, they are.
They're not producing yet.
Yep.
And once they do, it'll be a while before it comes out.
Yep. So Bulleit has a huge new state of the art. They call it like 21st century stilling, something like that. Actually, Ryan, you weren't there when I interviewed Kevin.
No, I wasn't.
Yeah. So they have it's in Shelbyville, Kentucky. They have a new distillery that's going up, and it's not really going to be open to the public. Actually, maybe it will be. I don't understand why they wouldn't have anything up in the public anymore, but it's going to be called like 21st century distilling. I mean, in it, he basically said it's completely hands off. Like nobody's doing anything. Like it's completely, computers are automating everything that's happening inside the entire distillery. So he said it's actually almost like an Amazon warehouse. Like there's robots that are moving barrels and stuff like that. So it's pretty interesting.
That's a far shift from all the other operations going on where you got people like watching labels go down a line and inspecting them, themselves or whatever at the other distilleries. So
yeah. And then I think he also said it's also it's the same thing that Woodford does with using like forced heat in the warehouses during the winter to help age them faster and stuff like that too. So there's a lot of things that they're doing.
And the Solera thing, I guess, also people are doing that.
So Ben said, Pappy and Company retailer's website for a podcast, family history, sourcing products, popularity of items. Yeah, we could talk about the Pappy and Company, but I think that's just a big marketing camp, kind of thing for them. I wouldn't be against it. We could totally get the people from Pappy and Company on. Ryan and I, we've barked up Julian and Preston's tree for 2 years now, trying to get them on, and they don't give us the time of the day. So
no, they don't. I get it. They don't need the publicity, nor want it probably. So I understand, but it would be nice to get them on.
Yeah,
because we worked out together.
I've got your bottles, man. Come on. It was funny because, speaking of two people that don't want to come on the podcast, Michael Veach and Julian Van Winkle. So Michael Veach actually released an article this past week talking about
I saw that
history. And I was just like, what if I put this to like a words on book kind of thing? And I just read the article on the podcast.
Yeah.
And I said, this is from Michael Veach, and, gave him credit.
They probably send you a bill.
Yeah, I know. So I was like, that's the only way that we could get Michael Veach and Julian Van Winkle on the show at the same exact time was by doing that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Any word on how Rutledge's distillery is coming along?
I think it never happen. Well, I don't think they hit their goal with Indiegogo.
No, the Indiegogo thing, they stopped it short. I think they stopped it after like, what was it, 72 hours or 96 hours, something like that.
It was kind of confusing.
Yeah. Brief history for me, they didn't know. Jim Rutledge, who was the former master distiller at Four Roses, who is kind of the reason why Four Roses is so great today, left about a year and a half ago, something like that, maybe a year ago. And he was retired for maybe 4 months until he got, I don't know, you could say contracted or hired by some company that wants to start the Jim Rutledge Distilling Company, because, if everybody's trying to find their golden goose today, so everybody's opening up a distillery. And so their idea of starting it wasn't by funding it by themselves is they were going through like a Kickstarter campaign on but it was through Indiegogo.
Yeah.
And it was kind of odd. Like you had these stupid pledge levels. Like you could pledge like $350 and get like a coin or some shit.
Yeah.
Like you don't get a bottle, you don't get a barrel, you don't even get a brick named after you. You get like a coin, maybe like I don't know, like a hacky sack or something. I don't know. There was just some
coaster.
There's just some stupid shit. And so like after 96 hours, they saw, I mean, I think they were trying to raise like 2.5 million on Indiegogo. And they got like maybe 15,000 after 96 hours. And they're like, yeah, this isn't going to happen. So they pulled it, and they released a press release, I think a day or two later, that said, oh, we found funding from somewhere else, or a huge donor came in or something like that. But who knows what the truth is to that, or if they were just like, this was a huge fail and this is our only way out of it. So.
Yeah, I thought it was a good idea, but not the Kickstarter aspect. I think having Jim Rutledge start a distillery is brilliant, but
I mean, think about it. Like, what if you had like a really cool, like, what if it was what would it take for you to actually like fund to a Kickstarter, right? Would it be a bottle of bourbon? Would it be
just my name maybe etched on the barrel and a bottle out of that bourbon or something? I don't know.
Okay, what's that worth to you?
$250.
You think? I think it had to be more than that. I think you had to go to 250 for me. But at least from a business aspect of trying to raise money, right? Maybe 200. But I and you get a ability to tour the grounds whenever you want or something like that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think a Kickstarter could work, but you just gotta have the right things in return. I think
not a sticker.
Yeah, and I think their problem as well is, I mean, this is liquor at the end of the day, so there's probably a lot of red tape and hurdles that they can't necessarily say, oh yeah, we'll just give you a bottle of bourbon when it's ready in 6 to 8 years. Don't worry, you can pay us now. We'll figure out the laws here in 8 years and hope it changes or something, right?
Right. Yeah, there's probably some weird liquor law. But did you know that they're going to pass a vintage law in Kentucky to where bars can sell vintage bourbons now?
Well, I know that's why. So everybody that doesn't know, Matt Landon is the proprietor of Haymarket, which is like the, I guess you could say I wouldn't say iconic, but it's the biggest whiskey bar here in Louisville, and they've got a couple.
Won't be for long.
Okay, well, so I guess tell me about it, because I knew that he had been stashing up a lot of bourbons for a very long time in hopes that this would come, so it would be a little bit like DC. Yeah,
it's going to happen, and we'll be seeing a Jack Roses here very soon, within the next year or two, I believe. So it's going to be pretty awesome.
Was Bill sharing you some insider secrets there?
Yeah. I mean, not insider secrets. I think people know, but yeah, he's definitely trying to make a move to here and capitalize off our downtown. Just getting bigger and better. More bourbon focused. So, but I think it'll be cool anyways, because our bourbon bars, it's like I was telling him. I mean, we don't go to bars for bourbon because everything they have, we have at home. Or there's nothing like Jack Roses. I would go there because they have stuff I can't ever get. But bars here now, it's like, why even waste the money when you can get it at home?
No, I totally agree with you. That's what I've always, and people were always like, hey, like, I'm coming into town, like, what are the bourbon bars you go to? I was like, I can tell you the bourbon bars.
Same.
You're not gonna like the prices. And honestly, when I go out here in Louisville, I'll never order a whiskey straight. I always order either a cocktail or I'll get a beer. Because everything that even the people that have B-Tax on the shelf, like, I'm not gonna order that. I'm not paying $25,
or $30 a shot.
Hell, I'm not going to pay $23 for a shot of George D. Stagg here in town when I got 3 bottles of it sitting on the shelf at my house. So, because 3 pours out of there, and you basically paid for your bottle at cost. I'm not for here. I think it'd be really cool to kind of see something like that. I could get behind it. Now, I don't know how often I get behind it. Now, if they take American Express, I can get a lot more behind it, because we could have a lot more company expense dinners or whatever, which would be fantastic.
Well,
right?
one cool thing he's doing at DC and he would do here, he's going to create a club, a Jack Rose club. And so he's actually got barrels of whiskey aging at Castle and Key, and he's bought barrels from Peerless and other places, and it's going to be, Jack Rose's. So in 4 to 6 years from now, like he'll only sell those to the club members and stuff. So, or that's what he's telling. So I thought that would be pretty cool. If you could join a club like that at Jack Rose's and be able to get those bottles, only through there.
Man, it sounds like there's definitely some conspiracy happening now, because now that he's doing that, so there's another local group on Facebook here,
right?
And so Matt Landon, who I was
that.
talking about, is starting kind of the same exact thing. He wants to start like a whiskey club here locally, where it's essentially almost, I guess you could call it like a clubhouse, where you go and there's a bar with a bunch of tables, and everybody has their own locker that you store bourbon in. And I think it's a good idea in theory. I don't know how well it's going to work.
Yeah, I don't think a locker is going to work. But
I mean, you gotta understand, like, this isn't New York. This isn't San Francisco. This isn't some place where space is limited and people have more money than they know what to do with.
Yeah,
you're in Louisville, Kentucky, where it's it's middle America. Everybody's you got good median income households around here. I can look at some of the people that are in these bourbon forums that are driving Ford Focuses. These people aren't paying $1,000 a month or $1,000 a year to go and store their bourbon in a locker somewhere. So it's definitely a lot of those people aren't definitely going to be down there. It's just, I think it's gonna be tough to get even 100 members, maybe the first year.
Yeah, I wouldn't pay for a locker, but I would pay for a club that I would get, kind of like what you get, with the Atlanta group or whatever, get, just be able to have private barrel picks and stuff like that, cool stuff like that. But definitely not a place to store my bourbon. It's fine right here at my house.
I would rather just be able to join a golf country club and just bring my own bourbon there and just drink with my 4 friends at the table that I want to fucking drink with, right? So
yeah, they probably won't allow
that. If I'm going to spend that kind of scratch, but that's still that's way cheaper than a golf country club anyway.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. Let's see. There's a small distillery in Fremont, Ohio called Ernest Garano Distillery, which you earlier pointed is just small locals, maybe not. Yeah. Never heard of them, Paul. So that's the problem. Michael, let's see. That, like the cloud for bourbon. What are some of the 2017 bottles that we're looking forward to? Honestly, I haven't looked at any of the releases or like the release schedule for 2017, so I have no idea what is even coming out. And mostly that's a lot of it's hearsay. It's a lot of it's rumors. So you really don't even know what's going to come out. That's what I remember this past year. You had Seasoned Wood that came out from Buffalo Trace, and then everybody expected this OFC release of Buffalo Trace, and that was like on everybody's release calendars. And then it finally came out, and like, oh, it's OFC, but it's only like 250 bottles, and they're valued at $50,000 a piece, and they're all going to charity. So so some of these are like, you don't really know if it's ever going to happen. It's whatever.
And I was thinking about today, I think 2017 might be my year to go back to staples, just drinking staples of bourbon. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know. I think I just got burnt out this year on the whole limited release thing. And I think I'm just, burnt out by it this year. I might just sit out.
I mean, we talked about it earlier, and I think the forecasts are right. I think Kerry's wrong in the fact that he says, like, oh, there's so much bourbon that's being pumped out right now. Like, age statements will be coming back and blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't believe that's right.
No, I don't either.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again, that in regards to the hockey stick, like, a hockey stick, like we're like right here right now, right? I think we still haven't even hit this huge incline yet, so we've still got a long way to go.
And even when we get there, it's going to get to the peak. Instead of going like this, I think it's just going to go like this.
Gonna plateau for a while. Yeah.
I think it's just going to stay at the top. Like, it's not going to grow, but it's not going to sink down too much.
Yeah, I think I kind of lost my train of thought there. Yeah, I lost my train
With
of
the
thought.
stock and age statements coming back.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think the age statement's gonna come back on anytime soon. I think in 23 years from now, there's going to be a lot more Pappy 23 available. In 15
But
years,
I don't know. I think honestly think
there's going to be more bottles, but there's going to be more people. So
yeah, but I think they're going to use all this stock to sell more like regular bottlings. I think they're trying to expand their brand worldwide, and they're not going to be aging as long as moving into the future.
So you think we'll see our first Pappy 7? Is that what you're thinking?
No, not Pappy 7, but I think they're probably going to use it more for Weller or, more Weller 12 or something, just like,
right.
I don't know. Like, I just think they're going to keep these limited releases pretty small and using all their stock to sell brands that are in that mid price range, because that's what most people can afford. And that's where they make their most profit margin.
Right. Nope, I'm with you. And I think you're right too. I'd like to think in 15 years that there's going to be, a good amount of, Van Winkle 15 sitting there, or, William LaRue Weller just sitting there that, won't be too hard to get it. But, you said that you weren't going to go for limited releases. It's kind of like a drug for me. It's really hard to stop. When
I say that now, but once I get to see the group message go off, I'll probably get the it.
I mean, when I look at my bourbon shelves in the basement, and 90% of what I have in regards to bourbon is all limited release stuff, like it's kind of like, well, I don't know if I really want to change. So the other thing is, like, I don't want to be 40 and camping in front of liquor stores anymore. So that's kind of my goal, is like, how much further can I push this? Without pissing my wife off too much, right now, like, me and you, we both got kids. My kid's only 3. If I'm gone at camping at a liquor store for a night, she doesn't give a shit. When she's 8 and she can go and she can relay to her friends that dad's camping in front of a liquor store, like, that doesn't sound too good.
Yeah. Like, your dad's a drunk.
See, that's the problem, is that, like, I'm not an alcoholic, but I'd have an alcohol problem. So
right.
But yeah, that's why I kind of like look at it right now that I'm stocking up for a pretty good while, that I don't have to really worry about it later on, because I know there's gonna be a time when all this shit's gonna have to just come to an end for me, and I think if I can just prepare myself for that, I'll be a little bit happier. So,
I think I'm living that right now. Once you have 2, especially at the same time, it kind of diminishes.
Yeah, you need
all your time.
Yeah, you need to get yours off to college before you can start doing this stuff again.
I need to go to bed because they're getting up in 6 hours.
All right. That sounds good. Yeah, we can call this. Hey, good talking to you. Thanks, everybody that joined. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Are we doing Wednesday or?
John never got back to us, did he?
Yeah, I don't think so.
So I'll send him another message tomorrow.
If we could do like more like 2-ish, that'd be better for me.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with that on Wednesday.
Like even 1:30 would.
There it is. Yeah, so everybody does know we're supposed to be doing John Little of Smooth Ambler this week as well. So we're gonna try to get that knocked out as well. So hopefully we'll get 2 podcasts done this week, which will be nice. Take next week off for the holidays.
Yeah. If you can never find that Van Winkle rye I had, I'm telling you, it is this most special thing ever.
I probably don't even know the price. It's probably gonna be in the 3,000 range plus. So
yeah, I guarantee it.
Yep, never gonna be able to try it. Glad
just
you
trade a couple 23s.
I got an idea. How about
why don't you come up with me next time?
Yeah, I was about to say, how about me and you just take a road trip to DC sometime, and we'll just go and chief all his stuff for a weekend. That sounds good to me.
Let's do it next spring for Cherry Blossom Fest.
Is that such a thing?
Yeah, DC, they got all the cherry trees around the National Mall or whatever. So
whatever, we'll use this as an excuse. We'll try to write it off. Yeah,
I say that or Tales of Cocktail, but I'd probably rather go to DC.
Yeah, I can do that.
Awesome.
Cool, man. All right, have a good night. Thanks, everybody.